I'm a procrastinator. I work best at the last minute, like doing my homework or writing video scripts or packing for vacation. My dad used to chide me when I was a kid. Why do you wait till the last minute? I guess my answer to him now would be, Dad, that's when I do my best work. So I suppose I can identify with the characters of the 5 foolish virgins in today's story from the Gospel of Matthew. You remember the parable. 10 bridesmaids are waiting for the bridegroom to arrive. Some of them have thought ahead and purchased oil for their lamps. Presumably, they needed the light for the welcoming ceremony. The 5 foolish virgins, procrastinators all, ran out of oil and had to go off to buy more at the last minute. They ended up being shut out of the wedding when the groom arrived. Jesus offers this conclusion to the parable. Therefore stay awake, for you know neither the day nor the hour. Jesus sounds a little like my father in the parable. Plan ahead, be prepared. But the urgency behind this parable is far deeper than a homework assignment or other daily tasks. Jesus begins this and many other parables with a phrase such as, the kingdom of heaven will be like. Parables of the kingdom are meant to impress his audience and us 2,000 years later with the reality that God's heavenly reign, God's wonderful work of salvation, is breaking into our world. Jesus himself is the central sign of the kingdom. He is God present, reconciling, forgiving, loving us even to death on the cross. This divine presence calls for immediate action, for a reordering of our smallest day-to-day priorities. It calls for a loving response to the free gift of God's love. There was an urgency in Jesus' proclamation which perhaps his immediate audience and the early church were more attuned to grasp. The early Christians thought that the final fulfillment of salvation history was quite near. Jesus would return in their lifetimes. We know, of course, that Jesus has not yet returned. We may not hear parables like today's story with any sense of urgency. Perhaps it's just another gospel story from a long-distant past. What might it take for you and me to recover the spirit with which Jesus spoke and his first listeners heard this and other parables? May I suggest that one way to motivate our response is to realize that we have the same need for God's reconciling and forgiving love. Though we live in a different time and culture, we still need God. As today's saint, the great father of the church, St. Augustine, wrote, "Our hearts are restless until they rest in thee." Let's allow our restless hearts to remind us to take heed when Jesus speaks.